This meeting of the Public Works Committee is now called to order. Today it's Wednesday, January 24th, 2024. The time is 1:33. Mr. Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councilmember Lee,
Present?
Councilmember Blumenfield. Councilmember Blumenfield is currently absent, and Councilmember Padilla.
Present.
2 members and a quorum.
Before we move any forward, I'd like to officially welcome our newest member of the Public Works Committee, Councilmember Padilla. Welcome to the Public Works Committee. We'll start with public comment. Those that wish to speak can come to the podium. Actually Eric's going to call your name, you'll have 1 minute of general public comment and 1 minute each for items on the agenda for a maximum of 3 minutes. All right, Mr. King, can you call the first name?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mr. Sachs? You signed up for 2 items and general public comment. Okay, that's your general comment. You'll have 2 minutes for item 5 and 6. Go Puppet. You'll have 2 minutes for the items and 1 minute for general public comment.
Mr. Spindler, please keep your comments to items on the agenda. Mr. Spindler, please keep your comments to items on the agenda.
The people on the goddamn fucking agenda are on the goddamn subject matter of goddamn general public goddamn comment, right? Why don't you just stop fucking around? That's what John Lee did, and that's why he got into all those problems. See, that's on the topic too, isn't it? But don't worry there. Join us on Friday morning at 8 a.m. to watch a former councilman get up to 13 years in federal fucking prison. They're so fucking stupid like you. Well done.
That concludes public comment, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you so much. Councilmember Padilla, as long as you don't have any objection, I would like to take items 1 through 5 on consent. Unless there are any of those items you wish to discuss? No? All right, Ms. Clerk, can you call the agenda item for 1 through 5, please?
Thank you. And just to make sure, is there supposed to be an amendment for item number 1
Aye.
for the vacation?
Yes, there is.
Mr. Attorney, can you please read the amendment to item number 1?
And if you would like, I have the language.
Oh, yeah, please, Mr. Clerk.
So the amendment would be that this item be amended to delete conditions number 6A1 and 6B1, 6AI and 6BI in the Bureau of Engineering report dated October 20th, 2023. And now I will call the roll on the other, that and the other items. Councilmember Lee?
Aye.
Councilmember Blumenfield is currently absent, and Councilmember Padilla.
Aye.
Thank you. So items number 1 through 5 have been approved, and number 1 approved as amendment.
All right, thank you so much. This time, can you read item number 6 in the record?
Thank you. Item number 6, a report from the Board of Police Commissioners relative to enforcement strategies that are underway and are in consideration in support of the city's effort to fortify the street lighting network.
All right, can we ask LAPD and Bureau of Street Lighting to come to the table? Councilman Padilla, this was a motion I introduced last year that asked for the police department and the Bureau of Street Lighting to report to this community, this committee on the enforcement strategies that are being utilized to support the city's ongoing efforts. There was one point in my district, we had close to 900 lights out at one single moment. So this is something I know that's affecting all of our districts. It's a public safety issue to me, and so we will I'd like to ask LAPD to present their report, and we will follow that with questions.
Good
Captain?
afternoon, dear councilmen and folks here. Captain Raul JaVale. I'm the area captain for Central Division. I'm here speaking on behalf of our Central Bureau Chief, Michael Orb. I don't know if you know him. Unfortunately, he's tied up, so he's tasked me with this. And I was more than happy to volunteer. But so I don't know if you're aware, but we had a press conference yesterday at the 6th Street Bridge with Council Members De Leon Park to talk about the issues we're having with the copper wire theft in the entire city, but more specifically in Central Bureau. And as you may be aware, Central Bureau encompasses the divisions of Central, Rampart, Hollenbeck, Northeast, and Newton. And we had a preliminary meeting about this with CD14, Councilman De Leon's office, and Bureau of Street Lighting was also there. And kind of opened my eyes to how big this problem is, because when you look at it besides a divisional level, it is pretty big. And we ran statistics over the last 6 months for Operation Central Bureau, and there's only 217 crimes reported for copper wire theft, which is very, very low, given that Bureau of Street Services is tracking over 6,000 reports for last year. So we came together with our command staff, and we've decided to do a task force. And this is not a citywide task force. I want to be clear, this is for Operation Central Bureau. Although it may take us to other parts of the city, but a citywide task force where we look at reporting, looking at where this is happening, strategies to abate the copper wire, and our intent is to really dismantle the criminal organizations that are doing this. We believe these are crews, criminal syndicates that are really tearing down our infrastructure and really impacting public safety. I won't talk about the specifics of what we're going to do, but we're assembling teams of officers and looking at strategies to arrest these individuals using any and all of our tools that we have at our disposal. But I'll take any questions you have.
Thank you, Captain. Did you say it's only, this task force is only focusing on central area?
So currently, it's for Central Bureau, not area. So that's all the 5 divisions that I mentioned. And we looked at a heat map of the reports we have, and central, the downtown area, specifically east of downtown and south of downtown, perhaps the most heavily impacted areas for this copper wire theft.
More impacted than, let's say, Council District 3 and Council District 12? I mean, Council District 12, we had at one point over 800 lights out at a single moment. Is that correct, Bureau Street Lighting? I mean, the Central Bureau now is higher than our 2 districts, and I don't know about Councilman Padillas. I'm sure hers is pretty bad as well.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Rudy Mendez, Acting Division Manager for Infrastructure Protection here for the Bureau of Street Lighting. So based on the majority of our data that I've been able to procure, the central area has predominantly been on the top of the list of streetlight outages and vandalism in general. One notable area would be the Skid Row area and then the neighboring neighborhoods.
Do you have that report? I mean, do you have something that you can show us about the breakdown as far as the different bureaus?
So I currently do not have that available with me. I only have the general numbers from last fiscal year and this current fiscal year, and I'll go ahead and share them with you. If you're,
Yeah, if you could make sure our offices get a copy of that, because I have a feeling that I know how bad the West Valley is, and at one point, I believe my district was #1 on the amount of lights out. So if we can figure that out, Captain, can I ask? I want to ask about like enforcement. Like, if doing enforcement, have we actually prosecuted any of the copper wire theft? I mean, have we been successful in?
So unfortunately, there's very few arrests made for copper wire theft. Literally, we ran the stats. We only had 2 arrests for copper wire theft in Central Division last year. And we looked at Hollenbeck, they only had a handful also. And as you know, there's a lot of hurdles with the reporting, lack of witnesses, lack of video.
Sure.
So we're going to lean heavily on tips from the public, on videos, photos, information, and also on surveillance cameras that are installed and also installing new ones. So, but we're also looping in the city attorney's office and district attorney's office on this. So that is our intent, to loop them in and have solid cases that are prosecutable, and then holding the city, the LA city attorney and district attorney's office to do their share.
Okay. Is there a reason why you said there was 6,000? They report 6,000. Is there a reason why we're not reporting these, or is there to Bureau Street Lighting?
yes, of course. So we're currently working with LAPD on getting a dedicated course link for reporting wire theft incidents into the LAPD system. So previously, we did not report incidents because they were, at the time, under $5,000. So we would have to go in person. We did start reporting incidents by one dedicated FOD employee at our yard. She was able to report approximately 60 incidents in person at the various divisions throughout the city of LA, where we experienced theft and vandalism, or copper wire theft specifically. She did this all on overtime. She amounted a total of approximately $13,000 on overtime. And if we were to report all over 6,800 incidents, it would take us a total of approximately $1.5 million just to do it in person alone. So this led to working with LAPD and developing a more streamlined way of reporting copper wire theft incidents to within their system.
Have we added? Has that been requested? Adding it to the course?
Yes, sir. So I do have somebody here from the Community Online Reporting System, what we call CORS. They can get into the weeds as to how that's going to work. But my understanding is that we have a CORS system, And if you want to report a particular theft or vandalism, if it goes over 5,000, the system kicks you out. It basically tells you you need to go to the police station and do a report. So I think what they're doing is adding a link for Bureau of Street Services where they can report vandalism or thefts, and the amount then will go well over 5,000 because a lot of these thefts obviously are tens of thousands of dollars, I'm sure. But my understanding that the link is going live February 22nd. They're still kind of tweaking and retooling it, but that is the target date.
Will that, I assume them reporting more will help us within our prosecution efforts by the city attorney's office?
Yes, sir. The first part of this task force is intelligence and data collection, that we're going to lean heavily and get officers just to look at where is this happening, what divisions, what reporting districts. And I do want to add, council member, just to be clear, that major crimes division and commercial crimes divisions are the two divisions for the department that deal with citywide issues. I don't know if those divisions have been tasked with looking at this on a citywide level by bureaus or districts or council districts. My report, what we looked at was specifically for Central Bureau. So I don't know if that was the ask for this report, but I just let you know we have not looked at it from that level.
Okay. So are there any other enforcement strategies LAPD is looking at I mean, it's a public safety issue to me, right? I mean, if I have that many lights out in my district, this seems to be obviously an issue that we've been all dealing with. Are there other enforcement strategies that maybe you have in place or that we don't know about, or other ideas of things that we can maybe hopefully assist you with?
I think this problem, just like a lot of the issues, are multifaceted. There's a lot of different angles to this issue. You have private companies that are getting ripped off. Verizon, AT&T, a lot of their infrastructure is getting ripped off. You have a lot of, on a smaller scale, copper wire getting taken from light poles. And on a bigger scale, you look at the 6th Bridge where 7,000 feet of copper wire were taken. And so you got a host of bad actors, from, an individual in the street ripping off a little bit of wire to dedicated crews that are organized, deliberate. And that's what we want to target in this task force, is look at those, dismantle those. And it really begins with a task force component, because you're able to bring in people that have undercover experience, people that have investigative techniques and tools to look at the bigger cases. We've seen the successes of the task force component with the retail theft, the follow home, follow up bandits that we arrested, that department arrested. But it takes, that leans heavily on intel information and rapid follow up on the leads. And we just, as you know, the department is understaffed, and I'm not going to go into staffing because I'm sure you're well aware that we're almost 1,100 officers short. But when we come together and look at it, we're able to collaborate with our private and public folks, our city departments. We can definitely make a dent, and I'm really hoping that we have some success with this. I want to put people in handcuffs. These are crews, criminal syndicates, and we need to interrupt that flow of copper wire from the beginning to the end.
No, I appreciate that. No, I think all three of us are aware we're down a division, basically, in officers, which is unfortunate. For Bureau Street Lighting, is it possible to reach out to other, do you have the statistics on other cities, and maybe what, not only, I'm sure we're trying to examine every effort of how to stop this, but have we talked to other cities and seen if they have other ways that they've been, or are they having as big a problem as we are?
So we haven't, or we're still currently working on getting more communication with the other different cities or county. One entity we did talk to previously, under my knowledge, is Edison. So they have been dealing with copper wire theft as well, but their system is slightly different because they use aluminum wire. So they did recommend that as a solution. However, we still feel that copper is the most efficient for the system, but we will attempt to pilot at least one street lighting circuit with that aluminum to see how it works out.
Okay, so have you, what are all the efforts right now that we are obviously working on to, I see this as a really big problem, throughout our districts. I see, what are some, I mean, I know in our district, we've done the fortifications, but that's a very, costly, it works. I think as I see the heat maps for my district, wherever we've placed those, it's moved the copper wire theft away from that area. Are there other things that we've sort of best practices of other areas that we've been able to identify?
So unfortunately, no, fortification is the only thing we have been attempting because we have seen it been successful. In most cases, it's a 90% success rate where it has prevented additional repeat incidents in theft of copper wire. So
Right.
that's currently the dominant solution as of now. We have explored other avenues with different lids to prevent wire theft. However, they are not as cost effective as our in-house solution. So that's why we prefer and are continuing to pursue the fortification mitigation strategy that we have been doing.
If you can do me a favor and ask, recently I've been touring Beverly Hills to look at their LPR system. If you can ask them if their copper wire theft is as rampant as our city, and just maybe give me that information if they're able to utilize that in cameras. We're putting LPR cameras in our district, and so I'm hoping that can lead to a variety of different things that we can help prevent certain crimes. So,
Sir, I think the cameras are perhaps the number one key to this. Is we need the intel, a license plate, a face, a picture of who's doing this. We need those follow-up tips and leads. And on top of that, the next biggest thing is the public information, the public helping us out. Because I know people see stuff, they take photos, videos, and the real time, what we're lacking right now, and I'm glad they're making this CORS adjustment, is that real time data as to where this is happening. Right now, I couldn't tell you where the hotspots are. We haven't mapped that at this point. That is our number one goal in this task force, to map it. Where is this happening? And in some ways, we'll tweak and tool this, and hopefully we'll make a little model for the other bureaus. I know it sounds like this is happening everywhere in the Valley, West Side, and kind of deliver this model to perhaps Valley Bureau and say, look, this is what we've done. Perhaps you can replicate this. So we're looking at it at a smaller scale, but I'm hoping we have some successes that we can replicate.
great. Councilman Bloomfield?
Thank you very much. I have to say I'm a little frustrated. I mean, we've been talking about this for so long, and a lot of what we're talking about is what we will do and what we, is the future, and it's all stuff I wish we were way past. But, last November, the city attorney sent a letter to 700 recyclers informing them of the state rules regarding scrap copper wire and alerting them that LAPD has the ability to inspect their records. Has that helped so far? Are we inspecting the records of the scrap dealers?
So and you said it, sir, 700 recyclers. Think about how many police officers you need to inspect 700 recyclers. And the truth is, it is not happening right now at the scale that we'd like it to. But most importantly, before you start even looking at recyclers, is which ones are the problem locations? And this is where we need to follow the leads, instead of randomly inspecting recyclers, is which ones do we think are doing illegal activities and focusing on those, because reality is there's only so much personnel and resources for this task force. We really need to look at where can we get the most results, and that is definitely.
Have we inspected the records of any recyclers?
I haven't asked my detectives that question, sir, of how many, but I'll bet you it's a very small number.
Okay.
That's in my bureau, at least.
Right. I mean, because that's we stood with the city attorney. We made a big deal that this is finally, it's hard to catch the folks when they're doing it, but we know that they're making dough off of
Someone's
this.
buying it.
They're selling it, and the people who are buying it are complicit, and they're they're brick and mortar businesses. Like we can go after those are hard targets we can go after. So I don't understand why we haven't been inspecting the records and why that hasn't been a core part of the strategy.
I can think of one that we did last month where we went to a recycler. We actually sent an undercover officers try to sell some stuff, illegal stuff. We didn't get much, but that is definitely one of the strategies we will be looking at. But most importantly for us is out of the 700, which ones do we think are doing bad business?
Right,
And then
but even before picking that, I mean, if we just go to any of them and they say, give us your records, they have to have a record of who brought them the material that they're recycling. So if you see, you know, you can look at that list and you're going to see some folks on that list who you may recognize because they have 20 different warrants out, or if you're this, you know, I'm sure it's a who's who of who steals copper wire.
I totally agree, sir. It's definitely a strategy we will be looking into. I honestly don't have the numbers as to how many we've done. I guarantee it's a very, very, very low number.
Yeah, I just like to see if that's, you know, that was kind of heralded as a big new approach that we could go after, and we got the city attorney to focus on that to get those records open up. So I'd like to see us take advantage of that. You know,
Yes,
I know it's a tough problem, and we've been talking about it for a while. You know, are there other tools that you guys need? You know, there's you're talking about sort of there's the surveillance issue, but there's just in the hardening of the target, which we've been doing in our districts and across the city, but just is so expensive. And you know, I don't know what the other tools are, but
Yeah.
It's often not that hard to spot. You know, I see people with all sorts of wire just on the street, and you know they didn't get it. Honestly.
I totally agree, sir. It's a big issue. I personally think I've been on for 28 years and looking at the different task forces we've had over the years, and just the recent ones alone, follow home, follow up bandits, retail task force. We know, and I know this is the case for this issue. These are deliberate. These are crews. They're very deliberate. They have communications. They have lookouts. We got to beat them at their game. And that's why it needs a task force component to follow those leads, you know, and do all the tools, surveillance, cameras, all that stuff is on the table. And I think once we start making some arrests, we'll see a slowdown of this, because I think it's dedicated crews getting together and being very deliberate. And we're going to go rip off this area, that area.
Yeah. No, and I know when there was one a couple of years ago that was brazen Sherman Way. They had orange vests on in the middle of the day, and people saw them, and you know they would literally put up traffic cones and ripped off all the wire. So it's been going on for a long time. But appreciate the report and appreciate the focus on this, because as the chair mentioned, this is a very big issue, and it's costing us a lot of money and a lot of safety, because it's not just about the money. And I should say it's also costing us, you know, the private sector, the communications that go down, and you would think that they might be willing to be helpful as well.
Yeah, Councilmember Padilla?
So I think all of the good questions have already been asked, but just kind of in your statement, there is something that is a little nerve-wracking to me when you said that this motion or this report opened up your eyes to the severity of the problem, because it's definitely happening outside of just Central and Rampart and the 5 that you listed. I know for a district like mine, where historically we don't have lighting districts, you had to have council members that over generations had to fight just to get some kind of a lighting district. And now those lighting districts are being destroyed because of this organized crime. And I know you called it crews, but that's exactly what it is. It's organized crime. Like you said, they put on the vests. They're obviously experts at this, and they're not just stealing city. You know, they're destroying the lights under the freeway underpass. So what I wanted to know was if you're interacting in any way with state leaders, because it's state leaders that regulate the recyclers. That's my first question.
So once again, out of all the issues, and this is unfortunately part of why we have this issue, it's a property crime. And we always live in the violent crime world, and we start getting into the retail theft, wire theft. It's just not one of those things that on everybody's radar and agenda. I knew there was wire theft occurring, but when I heard that it was costing tens of millions of dollars, I was like, holy Jesus, why aren't we doing something about it? I think I had the same response that most people would have. Holy Jesus. But the issue, and I think the reason why we haven't put a task force together, because it's a property crime and it's a citywide issue. And the department as a whole, I think, has a responsibility to look at it citywide. And that's where major crimes, commercial crimes comes into play. They're severely understaffed. I'm sure I heard they used to have a copper wire component, and they got rid of that a few years ago because of staffing. So I think as a department, it's a property crime, and I think that's why we're here talking about it now. Is it has not been on the radar of this department at that level.
Yeah. None of this is new to me. I know I'm a new council member, but I vividly remember when the first conversation was that copper pipes were being stolen from new homes or when people were out of their homes. So it's the theft of copper that really is what is happening and is sort of at the core of what these organized criminals are doing. They're continuously reinventing themselves to be creative, to go after this precious metal. I'm also even wondering if by the time you could potentially put together your task force and you start to go review the records of some of these scrap dealers, you might realize that they're selling it in another state, right? So I bring this up just to kind of emphasize that this is more sophisticated than I think we think. When I saw that they took things off of the 6th Street Bridge, personally, I felt like this is a situation where the theft and this organization the shit hit the fan, right? They're really doing hardcore theft, and we have obviously been very behind it. So I really hope that everyone at the department can sort of take this, elevate this as a real serious issue, because it is a public safety issue, right? It's public safety because it makes it easier to commit the smaller day-to-day low-level crimes within our communities, and even a public health issue because a lot of inappropriate things happen in the dark, especially in places like my district, along places like Sepulveda Boulevard, where things like human trafficking happens. So what I just want to know is, what do you need from us to kind of enhance and create this task force, but also engage in a public awareness campaign?
So I think just like Operations Central Bureau is putting together a task force, nothing's saying why Operations West Bureau, Valley Bureau, South Bureau can't put a task force component as well. That is within the purview of the bureau chief to do that. We're doing it now because, and I'll be honest with you, the 6th Street Bridge was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back for us. Was like, holy Jesus, how can this happen in broad daylight? So I think at this point, we talked about the task force. We're getting the people this week. We just need to get to work. And I'm very confident. I put together a burglary for motor vehicle task force in downtown in October. I've done 14 operations, arrested 20, 30 people breaking into cars. So these task forces work. You have the right people, the right methods. I'm very confident we're going to make some arrests. And you start announcing that in the news, we're out here looking for you, it's going to slow down. The other part that we really need to do is ask your constituents to work with us, give us those leads and tips. I know people have videos and photos. Give us a license plate, give us something. We'll follow up on those. I don't know if we've done enough. And I know Councilman De Leon is talking about a reward program. I think that's a great idea. We have a reward program for hit and runs and other things. I think that's good. But I think we need to sort of do this more with the media component and just let people know.
Thank you. And here's my question for street lighting. You know, if I was in your position as an employee for the Street Lighting Bureau, and I'm hearing that there's people that are dressing up in broad daylight, pretending to be part of some kind of legitimate organization, I would be insulted, right? It's almost like they're spitting in your face. So I'm curious, what can your department do to better stay on top of observations related to people touching your infrastructure?
So I agree with you. We do feel insulted the fact that people try to impersonate, our field workers who work really hard to set up the street lighting districts throughout the city, and as well as maintain them. As far as your question in regards to observing these impersonators, I wouldn't have a good solution to that right now, just because it would require, I believe, a huge amount of manpower to oversee different parts of the city. However, one thing that I do know is the constituents should be or are allowed to ask and verify that the people working in their areas are in fact city workers. I believe that they should be asking for the city ID to ensure that it is our district or our bureau. But as far as making or keeping observations on that, I wouldn't know how to answer that question.
Okay. And then my second question is, I forgot what word you use in terms of what you're using to kind of stop it, which in essence means you're creating fencing.
Fortification.
Yeah, fortification. So can you elaborate on that?
Sure. So fortifications was something that we decided to call as building a castle wall around our infrastructure. So we felt that the only way to really try to combat copper wire and power theft and make it the most cost effective in-house was to just build essentially the word castle around it, right? Which entails burying our pull boxes or any access points on the sidewalk under concrete, as well as welding all our handholds shut at the bottom of the pole. And in some cases, creating wraps around them to ensure additional fortification in an attempt to reduce the repeat incident.
Okay. And we're aware that these criminals are sophisticated and obviously organized at planning what they do. So these methods, have they shown to work? Or what was your thinking around
Yes, so
utilizing them?
in the majority of our fortifications, we have seen this 90% success rate where we have been able to mitigate a repeat issue. One of the, in the 10%, it's mostly related to power theft, where the people living in RV encampments just have all the time and day to just break back into the infrastructure. So we have found that they have handheld tools where they could chip and break into the infrastructure. And the fact that they have the time of day to just, try to attempt to continue to break into it. And in most of the cases, they just drill above our mitigation or above the wrap that we did. And they just drill a hole further up above and they splice into the system. But like I said, that's more specific to power theft. But as far as wire theft, it has been successful. And like Councilmember Lee said, in most cases, the perpetrators just shift to a different area where the circuit has not been fortified.
Okay, no further questions. Thank you.
The report also talks about a vulnerability assessment. Have you guys done that yet at the Bureau Street Lighting sites?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, the report mentioned a vulnerability assessment about our yards. Has that been done yet?
No, I'm not aware of that report, but I'll follow up with, my executive staff, and I'll try to get more information on that. But I'm not aware of that.
Okay, Captain, do we feel that like all the departments are reporting, every time a catalytic converter is stolen, anytime, something is happening at our yards? I feel like we're not, they fix the problem and they just write off. Do you feel like the departments are reporting the crimes that are actually happening at our yards? Not just street lighting, but, everything.
Unfortunately, if you look at, I forgot how many months ago, we had a pursuit, an officer-involved shooting with a DWP truck, I think,
Mhm.
that was stolen from a yard. It had been stolen for 3 months, and nobody knew about it. I think this is happening quite often. I think the lack of resources and staffing is hitting all departments, and this is where I keep talking about cameras and looking at ways to make technology work for us. And I think that's the key to a lot of this is technology. Once again, focusing on where this is happening, we have cameras there, we have ALPR to capture a plate that we can follow up on, and I think that's the key. So I just think of a lot of this stuff is just not getting reported or very delayed.
Well, we're putting ALPRs throughout Council District 12. I've seen home burglaries increase 103% in some areas, and so that's hopefully Beverly Hills just solved 3 of our homicides using ALPRs, and I'm hoping that we can use that same technology to help lessen some of the crime that's happening district, and hope if that's a solution, hope that we can take that model and maybe take it citywide. So excited about seeing how that happens. Okay, I guess we will note and file the police report, but I'd also like to instruct Bureau of Street Lighting, LAPD, to report back with the findings of any security vulnerability assessment. Like, are they stealing copper wiring straight from our yards, including recommendations to improve any BSL yards? Oh, and before, one last question for street lighting. We were supposed to look into a yard in the valley so that we weren't having to respond from West Los Angeles. Do you know if we've identified a site yet that can service? I mean, you have 3 Valley Council members up here. Have we identified a site of where we can have trucks work out of?
So we do have a Raymer yard, which I believe is located between CD 6 and 7. That is our valley yard as of now, and a lot of our workers work out of there to address the valley districts.
Okay,
so we do have
people
a valley
reporting directly.
Yeah, it's a small
we're not
portion
bringing
of,
trucks from West LA.
No, we do have some dedicated equipment and material there. We do work with, I believe it's Street Services Yard.
Okay.
But yeah, we do share a yard, a portion of it to house all the equipment and materials.
As long as we don't have trucks still coming from West LA to
Yes.
do our things. I'd also like to instruct the police department in coordination with the city CAO's office, General Services Department, Department of Public Works, and any necessary departments to report with the feasibility and or recommendations for the creation of an internal task force on crimes against city infrastructure, which will handle the intake of crime reporting from city agencies and manage prevention and enforcement strategies for crimes that damage and vandalize critical city infrastructure, including street lights, streetscape and public transit improvements, and city facilities. This report should also include recommendations for resources needed and potential funding sources to implement the task force. Can I get a second for that? Okay.
I do have a question, sir.
Yes.
When you said the word task force, you mean citywide task force?
Correct.
Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry, can I provide an update to your question?
Yes.
So regarding the additional yard, GSD Real Estate Division is still working on identifying a new yard.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. That being said, I think we can call. Oh, I'm sorry.
Just wondering, maybe
Yeah,
we could
please.
also do something about in the report back for the instructions about the recycler inspections. You're getting a report back on the results of the recycling. I just think it's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we had a big press conference on everything. I love. Yeah, if we can get a report back, Captain, about what we are doing regarding the actual you know, the people who are buying, someone's buying these metals and stuff like that.
Instructing the police to inspect the recyclers' records, as we are legally allowed to do, and to report back on what that results in.
I accept that as a friendly amendment. Can we add that to the request? And now, if we can call a vote on
And
that.
once again, this is the citywide recyclers, right, sir? The entire city.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, but even with your task force, I mean, just
Yeah.
to
Get something
go
going.
down that road and see if that doesn't produce, a list of people stealing.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, Captain. Thank you. I appreciate you guys
Absolutely.
both being here to speak on this. Can we call the roll on? We're going to note and file the police report and then ask for those report backs to this committee.
Thank you, Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Blumenfield,
Aye.
and Councilmember Padilla. 3 ayes, and this item is approved as you stated.
Are there any other items to consider?
No, the desk is clear.
Again, I'd like to welcome Councilmember Padilla to the Public Works Committee meeting to have Three Valley.
Congratulations, Councilman.
Yes. And other than that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
See you.